Okay. So I am so glad to be here with you, Cynthia. Thank you for being here as a guest and for saying yes to this interview. In this I Am series of interviews, I have different unique people, and you, the listeners, have the opportunity to know and have a glimpse into their lives. And if Cynthia has something inspiring for you today, if you get one thing to take out of this relaxed conversation and to put into your lives, I invite you to click the link in the description and to help the hospitals in Romania, which are in need now. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi, welcome. I'm so excited to be here, and I am so blessed and I am so thankful for this opportunity. And I wish hopefully one day I will be able to meet your wonderful country. Hopefully one day I will. I have not been out of United States and Mexico, so I really want to go ahead and travel the world, and I would love to go to your country one day.
I will be glad to be here and show you some parts of it. So
I'll remember that.
Okay, let's make a deal.
Yes, that sounds like a deal.
For start, I will invite you to tell us very shortly, in 30 seconds, who you are.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Cynthia Luna, and I'm an inspirational speaker, an author, and a writer. I'm also a mother of two, and I'm also a wife. So I got my hands pretty full. I am also a student in psychology. So yeah, I understand what it feels to be a mom and try to do everything.
So how long have you been a motivational speaker?
So an inspirational speaker, I've just started actually back in August 2019. Because before that, I felt very lost in my life, and August 2019 was such an important and memorable month for me and year, because that's when I was able to find myself and find my journey. So since then, I've been continuing doing this steps towards it, and it has been great.
And what happened in that particular moment, August 2019?
So before that, just so you kind of understand or explain myself where I'm coming from, I have been suffering from depression and anxiety for many years since I was a teenager, and it was a very rough path. When I got out of high school and I started college, oh my goodness, if you see my transcript, it's so long because I was taking just classes here and there because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I wanted for my career. And I thought I wanted to be a preschool teacher because my mom was going to open a preschool. So I was like, okay, so I'll try being a preschool teacher and see if I like it. I was almost at the end when I had to do the actual in-person training that I had to be with the kids. I just had to be there for 4 hours volunteering, and it felt like forever. So like, oh my God, this is not for me. So I got out of college, and in that time I already had my son and my daughter too. I graduated just with my generals from college, and I started working because I just didn't know what to do, what career do I wanted. So I was like, why am I wasting more time with this? I'll just start working. So I started working, but it always in my back of my mind, I always wanted to graduate. It was always a dream of mine to be able to graduate at university level and not just college level. And it came to a point that, again, in my jobs, I did not feel like this is my place. And it was either the work or it was the people who were there, one or the other. And life just kept me pushing and looking for something else. And even though I've been suffering from depression for a long time, in 2019, it got worse. It got worse. At this time, I was working as a community health worker in my small town in Arizona. And I was also studying psychology, and I'm currently also studying psychology at NEU, Northern Arizona University, and which I love. I love psychology, which is kind of like close to the inspirational speaker. I love it. So at least I found something there. But in that time, again, I felt very out of place. My environment at work was not very healthy. And I was starting to suffer a lot, especially with anxiety. And it came to a point that I felt I had to do something. I had to do something about it because it was overwhelming me. It was getting control of my life, and it was getting control of my marriage, and it was just not healthy at all. So crazy thing, in January 2019, actually it was December 31st, 2018, New Year's Eve. I've liked one of the, I like on Facebook, one of the best speakers in Latin America. His name is Cesar Lozano. And I've had him liked on Facebook for a long time, but most of his videos and everything, it wouldn't just pop up. Have you seen that sometimes on Facebook, that you will like a certain person, but their notifications will usually won't come up fairly frequently? Have you seen that? So surprisingly, that day, his video did come out in my notifications. So I clicked on the video and I was hearing him speak. And at the end, he was talking about a certification of public speaking. And I'm like, I would love that. I would love to go and learn from him, because I've always liked being kind of like around the stage and talking to the microphone and all that. So like, I would love that. And I got more information, and I joined. I paid the prescription, in order to go to the certification. It was going to be at LA, California. I'm like, great, I can drive there, and there's no need for airplane, and so that's excellent. So that was January, right? 2019, the 1st of January.
So this was all the arrangements, and then in August, what happened?
Yes. So I heard about it in January, right? But the certification was going to be until August. So from January to July and August, again, like I said, I was suffering a lot from depression, and I asked my supervisor if I could ask for those 3 days of the certification, because the certification was going to be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And she was giving me a hard time about it. And I'm like, oh no, like I am not going to that certification. Like that is my life. That's what I want to do. And it was not that very cheap. So like it was expensive. Like I'm going. I'm going. And I spoke to my husband about it, and he's like, why don't you stop working? You feel very overwhelmed. It seems that it's taking a toll of you. You're miserable. I don't know how you feel, but sometimes it's like Sunday, you're like having this anxiety because tomorrow is Monday, you don't want to go to work. And it was very hard for me to make that decision. Even though I have thought about it and wanted that, it was kind of hard for me to make a decision, because I do not like struggling with money. And I knew that if I stopped working, we would have that struggle. So it was very hard for me to make a decision, but I finally did. I did. And I stopped working on a Monday. And then the next day, my husband and I, we went to LA, because on Wednesday, that was going to be the certification of public speaking.
So you have to resign from your job in order to be able to go to LA?
At the end, she was still giving me a hard time to get those days. But I think at the end, it was more that I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I just couldn't deal with the environment that was surrounded in my job. So I had to let go and let's see where life takes me. And it was the very first time, because for me, like I said, for me to do this, it was not an easy decision, but I had to. So I went over there on Wednesday, and it was really cool. There was a lot of people, very important people. And I felt like, oh my gosh, where am I? I did feel kind of intimidated, because there were people that work at the TV, at the radio stations, people who are already motivational speakers, who were bloggers, and they knew about this stuff. And I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Cynthia, and I'm unemployed. So honestly, it did feel very, very intimidating to be around all these people that had a lot of experience already. So we would have 3 coaches, and then Cesar Lozano was the main one, and then we got divided in 3 teams. And I'm like
sorry. When was the moment when you started to feel like at home there? Because I just imagined that you would.
Yes, well, at first it wasn't, because it was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? I'm surrounded by so many, already successful people and me, right? And me. Successful people and me. And it was my first speech. So the first speech, because they would make you talk in front of your team. And you had to say something about yourself, and I shared that I was going through a very dark time in my life. When I was done talking, my coach said, Cynthia, you say about, you're going through a very dark time in your life, but you shine when you talk. And I was like, oh my goodness, something inside me that was broken, kind of like, it helps unite. I did not cry though. I almost wanted to cry, but I did not cry. And after that, I just felt, and everybody who was there, they were very welcoming though. They were very welcoming. They were very, very helpful. And I started to notice that I was starting to attract certain people. And they were like, hey, I like how you talk. How long have you been doing this? Like, I'm not, I'm not a professional. I'm not. I wanted to do this for myself. Oh, I like how you talk, and I like how you, you express yourself. Like, oh, okay, thank you. For 3 days, every time I got out of the certification, oh my goodness, my stomach hurt so bad. Like, it's because of all the nerves, like, oh, I felt just my tummy like this. Oh my God. But I loved it. I loved it. Even though I felt so nervous and I was scared at times, I loved talking in front of people. And I'm like, this is what I should do. And as a, underrated, not very successful at the time person, I felt like I had to do something also to kind of feel like more noticed. And, one of the times that I had to do a presentation, I kind of sang. I sang for like a minute. So, I sang a song, and Cesar Lozano was like, oh my God, you're pretty courageous. You're like, oh, thank you. I'm trying this.
You sang on stage with your public?
Yes.
And were they part of it?
No, I didn't know. So when I stopped singing, they were like, hey, you sing pretty good. Like, oh, thank you. I just wanted to do something different that I can get noticed out of all of these people, because there were a lot of people. So when I felt the actual, I would say this as this word, magic, because that's how it felt, was the last day. It was the last day of the certification. If you did not pass, you would not get certified. You had to pass. And it was the last speech. I tried my best, because you only had like 2 or 3 minutes. That's it. You couldn't go beyond that. You have to be very good with your time. I tried my best, and when I ended my speech, a lot of people stood up and clapped. And that felt so wonderful. Cesar Lozano was also there, not just my coach and my classmates. And he stood up and came with me and put me as an example how I walked on the stage and everything, and I just couldn't take it anymore, and I started crying. I started crying and crying and crying because I felt like all of these years that I thought I was no one, all of these years that I thought I had no talent, all of these years that people said that, I'm not good at anything. All of a sudden, someone so important saw something in me. And it, like, right there, it really felt like my heart that was scattered in pieces just united, and I felt one. I felt like my soul came back into my body, and it's like this is where I belong.
Wonderful feeling.
Yes.
How did you make your journey afterwards, starting from this feeling and this inspiring moment?
Very good question. And I know a lot of you might feel that, I don't know if you have ever happened to you, Raluca, but have you ever gone to like a conference or something like that? You feel very motivated, you're very excited, and you go back home, and then
you lose it.
yes, and you lose it. And you lose it. And that has happened a lot of times before, right? You're so excited that you go back home, and you go back to your usual routine, and in about 3 days you lose it. Let's be honest. If you don't take action, you lose it. But here's the thing that I found different, and that's what I tell other people. Do not find motivation. Find your purpose. Because motivation is a limited amount of energy. Motivation. Your purpose is unlimited. Because when you understand why you're here, when you understand your purpose, even though things happen to bring you down, you go above that, because it's not about you. It's about what you can do for the world. And that is exactly what happened to me. I found my motivation. Not my motivation, my purpose, my mission. I found my mission. So I came back from my certification, and one good thing happened. I was able to get a part-time job working at the university. So that was very, very helpful, because I was able to do what I wanted to do, and also be working at, getting some money in. But also that same day, 2 days after one day after I came back from the certification, I received a call from my mom that my grandfather was very, very ill, and to go to see him, because otherwise I wasn't sure if I was able to see him again if I don't go. So my husband and I, we traveled to Ensenada, which was about 3 hours from where I live, and I was able to see him. It definitely felt, it was heartbreaking to see him this way. He was always a very strong man, and he was so skinny, and he couldn't talk really well, and it was devastating. In the little time that I was able to talk to him, I shared with him, grandfather, I went with Cesar Lozano and I got certified. And my grandfather, he's just like me, he makes these crazy faces. He was like, so he was like, oh my God, he was like so proud. And I told him, you have to get better, because I want you to be there with me when I do a conference and a lot of people are there. And my grandfather said, Cynthia, you were born for this. Since you were a little girl, I knew you were going to do something like this. And 2 days after, he passed away. So, that happened, which was very hurtful. And then 2 weeks later, a person who I love so much betrayed me, and in a way that it was very hard for me to overcome that. And it wasn't my husband, because a lot of people are like, your husband. No, it wasn't my husband. It was another person who I love very, very dearly, and I felt betrayed. And that hurt me a lot. It kind of felt like, like that person kind of died. That person who I had this, this view of this person who he was, and all of a sudden everything just, it wasn't, he wasn't what I had thought about him. But so it took me time, and when that happened, that was when I wanted to launch my podcast and my Facebook group, because I've been working for that. And obviously I did not feel like doing it. I mean, I felt heartbroken, and I did not feel like wanting to launch the podcast or anything like that. But if I had motivation, I would have stopped there. No questions asked. I would have stopped there. And I would have started with my usual negative thinking. What am I doing? Who do I think I am to be doing this? All of this negative thinking. But I had motivation this time. Not motivation, I'm sorry, I keep saying motivation. My mission. I keep saying motivation.
You had continuous motivation.
Yes,
every day, resourceful, plenty, and never ending.
Yes, and the never ending motivation comes from your mission, comes from your purpose. So because I had that purpose, even though I felt heartbroken, I still launched my podcast. I still launched my Facebook group, even though I was crying the whole time, and it didn't feel like I thought I was gonna feel. But afterwards, I felt so proud of myself that I did not let this sadness and this, how heartbroken I felt, to stop me from taking this step towards my dream. So it was not an easy path.
What was your first podcast about?
The first one, I'm sorry? The book?
The first podcast. What was it?
Oh, the first podcast. My first podcast was about not judging people who are struggling. About not judging people who are going through depression, because we never know if we're going to be next. And there's a lot of, we tend to judge, and we're like, suck it up and just stand up and just go on. Why are you crying about this? And you have to remember that this is a mental illness, and just how it is. It's just how we go to the doctor, and when we have a flu and we get help, this is the same thing. We're not a depressed person. We're suffering from depression, and it should be just as normal to get help for this as if you have the flu and you go to the doctor for it. So that was my first podcast.
And what do you consider to be your greatest strengths, Cynthia? Because you were in that abyss, in that downside of anxiety, depression, intense negative feelings, and you have recovered and find your way, your purpose, and now you are inspiring people to find their purposes. So how did you go through that transformation, and what was your greatest strength that guided you?
Thank you for the question. I believe that my greatest strength is resiliency, because even though I had depression, even though I had anxiety, even though I had all of this, things that I was pulling through, I kept on moving. And that is so true. When you take action and when you show yourself that you are more than what you thought you were, it just kicks depression in the butt, and anxiety too. And you show yourself, your negative talk self, you're wrong. So I think resiliency has been my greatest asset through this journey, that even though I had this going on, I still took my steps forward. I still continue doing them, even though. And that's my message that I want to have, give towards people, that even though you are still struggling right now with whatever it is that you're struggling with, still take those steps. Don't wait until you're, I'm perfectly fine now. I can continue. Now I can do what I want. No, life does not wait for you. You have to take steps. even though you're feeling this way. And trust me, as you take those steps, and I know it feels it's hard. It's hard at first. Of course it is. And you might have a day where you're like, today is not, I can't. That's okay. Be patient with you. But I'm telling you that if you continue giving those steps, it just keeps getting better and better and easier.
And how is to experience the faculty of psychology as someone who has lived some of the topics discussed in there?
So it's great because you know firsthand how it feels. When you don't know how depression feels or how anxiety feels, it's kind of hard to talk about it or to emphasize with someone that is going through, So now that, I look at my life, and I am a spiritual person, and if you want to believe in God, the universe, whoever it is, I understand now that I had to go through this journey. I had to go through these negative things for me to be able to do what I'm doing. Because I cannot get on a stage and talk about improving your life, and I cannot get on a stage and talk about depression and all this, negative parts of life when I personally have never been through it. Actually, funny story, I had a friend who already graduated as a psychologist. And but her life was it had like how you say that pink life, a pretty pink life, like everything was, was just perfect. She never really struggled. So whenever she would have one-on-one therapy, she would be so stressed because she's like, oh my God, these people with all these problems. And like, she couldn't emphasize, she couldn't connect to it because, she never struggled with that. So she couldn't understand what people really were going through. Because one thing is to read about it, and another thing is to go through it. And she just couldn't connect. And she actually, she changed careers. So I understand now why I went through all these processes, because for me to be able to understand, I understand you, I understand the struggle, I understand, and I also understand that you can beat that. I also understand that you can get over that, and you are enough to be able to beat depression and anxiety. So it's a blessing now for me.
And how did you find joy? I see you so full of life and so exuberant and with a lot of energy to give to others now.
Thank you so much. I'm kind of like tearing up right now. Your purpose. It's just your purpose in life. It gives you this sense of belonging, this sense of actually you're like a real mission. Doing what you love, oh my goodness, this is just pure happiness. Doing what you love. I know what it is to do what you do not love, and oh my goodness, it's mad. I did not like it. I know a lot of people go through that, and it's horrible to be doing every single day things that you do not like and you do not love. And now that I am, my goodness, it's just overwhelming. It's such a blessing. It's so beautiful. I mean, if I would not take the steps, I would have never met you. I would have never gone to class with Lisa Nichols. I would have never be here talking to you and talking to everyone who's there. I would have never be doing this. So how do you find your joy? Find what you love and do it. Even if you feel fear. My goodness, after the certification to San Lozano, he said, you can go to my conferences and go up the stage and talk. Imagine talking, and he had like about 1,000 people. I've never been on stage with 1,000 people. Did I feel scared? Oh yes, I felt scared. But even though I did it, And it was amazing. It was amazing. And it was super cool because I was one here in Human in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, I didn't know anyone. So, when I got off the stage, I could not thought about anyone who would come up to me and tell me, hey, anything. And they did. A lot of people came and hugged me. And there was a very nice young lady. She just ran to me and she hugged me and she felt like, I felt so proud for you. Like, oh my goodness, it's really cool. I never met her before. And then an older couple also came up to me and I'm going to take a certification because if people like you get out of that certification, I know that this is worth taking. Like, oh my goodness, like me, like really, me, the unemployed lady. And then Cesar Lozano told me, Cynthia, he cried actually the first time that I talked in front of the stage at his conference. He cried because he felt so proud of me. It's like, I'm gonna tell you this, you're one of the best ones that have gotten out from my certification. So like, oh my goodness, like really, really me? Again, I wasn't the unemployed lady. Sorry, my furry friend wants to get out of the room. So yes, it's just finding what you love, and it's scary at times, and it's not good. It's not easy sometimes, but when you find that, even though it's hard and scary, you just love the process.
And when the idea came to you to write the book and spread with your words this inspiring story of yours and engage people to find their purposes and to live their missions, how did you the past fear, or what was your dialogue, or how did you take the step?
Oh my goodness, the book. And I remember at the certification, they asked me, hey, Cynthia, do you have a book? I'm like, no. And I don't think I'll ever write one. I mean, I used to love writing poems when I was a little girl, but I never saw myself writing a book. So the reason why I got this idea was because my coach, he said, well, Cynthia, one good step that you can take towards your career is writing a book. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll do that. Like, that's super easy. I'll do that right now. And funny thing, that same night that he told me that, I received, give me 1 second. Let me take him out because he's not going to let me. Go right here.
He knows what he wants and he gets it.
Yeah, if it's not your kids, it's your animals. And so it's my third kid. And so that same night when he told me that, at the end, like a few hours after, I received a message through Facebook Messenger, and it was actually from a publisher. And because I had liked one of the posts about writing a book. So he started giving me information about it. I'm like, oh my God, is this a sign?
Aligning.
Yes, exactly. Like it was crazy. So he was very good at it because he helped me a lot. All of my doubts and questions, and one of my things was I do, because my book is in Spanish, because right now I'm more concentrating on the Latin America because there's more need in the Spanish area. But I'm also want to do it in English also in the future. But one of my things was, yes, I do know how to write in Spanish, but not correct Spanish. Because when you know two languages, when you're like you're bilingual, sometimes like you don't really dominate either or. I'm a Spanglish person, and you know what? That was one of my things. Like, I do not know how to write proper Spanish. He's like, don't worry about that. That's why we have editors. You just write your message. That's why there's people that can take care of that. And I'm like, okay. He's like, just give your message, take it out, and then we'll help with the formatting and everything. All right. Like, do you know what their book is going to be? I don't know. So you know the title, I do not know. I did not know anything, the title or anything. And in just that moment, he helped me with the title and the chapters. As I started writing, I kind of changed the name of the chapters from here and there. And what I wanted to just get a message out that, you know, for me, I had to let go of my expectations, of my egos, of my fear, in order for let myself be guided and understand what life was trying to tell me all this time of what I should be doing. And that's the thing, we want to have control all of the time, that we forget that life is trying to give us signs of what should we do with our life, and we keep thinking that we know better, and that's why we keep hitting the wall, and we're going, you know, towards this circle that house goes around and around. So when I started writing my book, it was
you
not easy.
You had a plan from the start when you had your title and your main message. Did you make the chapters and the structure, or you just let it flow on screen or paper?
So we first, when my editor helped me on that, on, you know, thinking about the title, brainstorming with the title and brainstorming with the chapters. But once I started writing, there were some chapters, title of the chapters that got changed, because once you start writing, you kind of like get the flow better about, you know, what you want to write about. And it was not an easy journey, because I had to open my life and my ugly part of me to the world. And you start to think, who is going to read this? Who's going to care? Is this good enough? And trust me, if you ever wrote a book, I know you understand me. And if you ever want to write a book, and if you go through these emotions, it's completely normal. Keep going. It's completely normal. And so yes, I've been going through this emotion, going up and down, and I will read my book to my husband, like, what do you think about this? It's like, this is really good. I'm like, no, it's not. So there was a point that I was like, oh, can I just delete this? And can I just cancel my contract? I don't want to do this anymore. And I asked the universe to help me with a sign, and it was very concrete, the sign that was given to me, that this was the path, and the book had the message that I wanted to get out in the world, and that it was going to help some people towards my message. So I continued writing, and there it is. I don't know if you can see it in the back. That's that's the cover of my book. It's called in Spanish, Suelta y dejate guiar, which is let go and let yourself be guided and find your purpose in life. That's the name of my book.
So it was a journey with ups and downs, even writing the book. And what was your spark that guided you through that process? When you had those questions, is it gonna be good enough? Is it too hurtful to open myself and show my story to the world, and those low moments? What was that thing that kept you going and giving you the power to do it, and the inspiration to keep going?
So as I mentioned before, I am spiritual. I do believe in God, and for me, it was Him. He was the one that continuously gave me this signs and these little messages that keep going, Cynthia. I'm taking you to this for a reason. It might not be easy, but it's needed. And it might be scary, but I need you to do it. So I thought myself as an instrument of Him. And so that's the thing, when you feel that you have a purpose, you understand that it's not about yourself, it's about the good for others. And when you understand that it's not about you, it's for them, it's for you, it's for everyone that's here, it helps you get that strength. It helps you get that courage to continue, because it's not about me. It's about the people I can inspire, it's the people that I can save, that, that helps, that has gone through what I had, and who are still dealing with this, to let them know that there is another way, that not everything is lost, that you can. So that's how I kept on going. It's just that faith, it was my faith and my willing to help others.
Beautiful. And from all this bumpy journey, and from all your anxiety and joy and inspiration for others, what was the most courageous point for you?
I would say from this point, oh my goodness, from this point to here, I've had a few. I believe the first one was when I had that huge heartbreak, and that even though I felt heartbroken, it took me a time to forgive, because I'm usually a very forgiving person, and that time it took me some time. It challenged me. It was that time. It was when I went up the stage and talked for the first time for so many people. That was another one. And again, because I was kind of shaky, but I understood it was not about me. And the other one was publishing my book. It was not easy, but it has given me a lot of blessings to feel so open and vulnerable, to, even though some people don't believe me, because some people are like, you had depression, but you look a certain way and you act a certain way, how can you have depression? I'm like, depression does not have a face. It can happen to anyone. And yes, I struggle a lot with it, even though some people don't believe me. So that, I believe, those were the three most courageous things that I've had done until this point. I know there's gonna be a lot more towards the route that I want to take, because I want to be, my main goal is I want to be an international inspirational speaker. And in that arena, well, for example, in our Spanish speaking, there's not a lot of females. It's more male dominated. So going to that arena as a female, it can be either a challenge, but then again, it's a pro, because there's not a lot of females. But then again, we have that challenge. And in my, here in the United States, there is a lot of competition. And also, I'm Mexican American, so you have that minority, and I'm a female. So there's gonna be a long path towards that. I've been having to deal with overcoming bad comments and overcoming judgment. And that's one thing that I think God is training me to do, to be able to overcome that, because I understand that, once I put myself out there, not a lot of people are gonna like my story, or they're not gonna like how I talk, or, not everybody's gonna love you. And I need to be okay with that not everyone is gonna love me, but as long as, I touch the most people that I can, that's what it should matter for me. So that is right now what I'm training myself, is to be able to overcome any bad comments and all that.
Apart from being empathetic and understanding people in sufferance, how did depression help you? Maybe it was a gift somehow.
Yes, that is an excellent question, because there is definitely another blessing in disguise towards that. If I have never felt depression and anxiety when I was working as a community health worker, it would have never pushed me. I would have stayed in my comfort zone. I would have stayed in my 8 to 5 job, working for, my minimum wage, because that's comfortable. It's something that you feel in control, because you have your usual checks and this and that. And even though I wasn't really happy about it, but it was something, right? So if I did not felt so uncomfortable, I would have never moved. And that is one thing that I've learned from life. Life will make you feel uncomfortable when you're not in the right path. When you think that you know better, and you're like, no, this is for me. Life is like, I need you for something else. It's gonna make you feel uncomfortable for you to move either, I'll move you either in a good way or in a bad way. It's up to you how you want to do it. And I was like stubborn, and it was the bad way all the time. But hey, it led me to here. So it was a blessing.
When you go through such a journey and you write a book about finding purpose and letting go, how would you approach parenting, and how would you give purpose from an early age to your child?
I love that question. And I know that when we're parents, right, we want the best for our children. We want the best for them. And we think we know what's best for them. Go to university, get a degree, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become, this expectation that we have for them. One thing that we need to understand, that the best thing is for them to follow their talent. As a parent, we can try to help identify what that talent is, because we all have a talent. And our purpose comes connected with your talent. For example, for myself, I believe that my talent is public speaking. So even though I wanted to be a singer and a dancer when I was a child.
You could touch that here and there.
Yeah, I wanted to be a singer when I was a child. My career did not end as a singer, no. But it was around that, talking in front of people and having a microphone. And so it wasn't exactly that, but very close to it. So when you're a child and you don't have this expectation of others, and you don't have this fears that we adapt when we're an adult, this is a very special time for them to understand what they're good at. So it's very good for them to start exploring different things, sports, art, music, all of these things that they can start exploring and see, what am I good at? Am I good at maybe science, at math? And once you see that, we have a responsibility to start growing that, helping them to feed that and see where can that talent go. Because once again, it's not about our expectations of them, it's what their talent is and how, in what career can they go into. Because what we want for our children at the end of our life is for them to be happy. And believe me, when you do what you love, you're completely happy. So that is one of our biggest responsibilities, is to help them and motivate them and push them to do what they love.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
And now, as a finish line to this interview, I invite you to complete the sentence, me, Cynthia, I am, with only one word.
Miss, what was the last part? I'm sorry.
you have to put a word after me, Cynthia, I am.
Me, Cynthia, I am an inspirational speaker, and I will help a lot of people get out of depression and find their purpose in life.
Thank you. That's a whole message from an inspirational speaker. And I am so glad to discover you in this interview, and you have an inspiring story that surely has touched our listeners. I am very, very curious to get into the content of your book. Maybe when you publish it in English, I will have the opportunity to go inside and find out more about who you are and about your journey, because it's inspiring. And I am so glad that you were here today with your openness and your warmth. Thank you very much. And I invite you, our listeners, to take this resilience and this beautiful message of purpose with you, and to put it in your life and to live it. And if you find inspiring Cynthia's stories and her journey, please click the link and donate a small amount of money for the hospitals in Romania. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And yes, when we donate, all those blessings come to us double. So I highly believe that when we help those who more and more in need, man, the blessings are just overwhelming. And again, thank you so much for this time. It has been absolutely wonderful meeting you, at least virtually, hopefully one day in person. And if you want to follow me, you can find me in Facebook at Cynthia Luna, or Let's Shine Together with Cynthia Luna. You can also find my podcast, Let's Shine Together with Cynthia Luna, and Anchor, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify. I hope we can be in contact, and I just want to be your cheerleader in your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We will put all these as links in the description for our listener too.
Oh, excellent!
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.